nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Commissioner Webster, if you could lead us in the invocation, please.
Will you join me to say prayer? God, we're grateful to live in a country where we can celebrate freedom and where we have the freedom to pray in our public meetings, and we ask you tonight to give us your help because we need it. Give us wisdom and direction, and may all that we do be done for the good of this community and to bring glory to you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. This time I would ask for a roll call.
Commissioner Webster?
Here.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
Here.
Commissioner Root?
Here.
Commissioner Garber? Here. Commissioner Marks?
Here.
Commissioner Plowman?
Here.
Chairman Broder?
Here. This time I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Support.
I got a movement with support. Any discussion on the agenda, changes? In that case, I will call the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes. Now I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the September 23rd, 2001 Board of Commissioners meeting.
So moved. Support.
Got a movement with support. Discussion on the minutes, anyone? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes. Next, I will need a motion to approve the bills.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the invoice edit reports dated 9/23, 9/24, 9/30, 10/1, 10/17, 10 and 10/14, and to authorize that warrants be drawn from the Treasury for same for a total, and this includes wire transfers, ACH, and EFTs, of $9,380,042.93.
Second.
Got a motion with support. Any discussion on the bills? Hearing none. I believe we need a roll call on this.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster?
Yes.
Chairman Broder?
Yes. Thank you. At this point, we have a special presentation. Dr. Boggs.
Yes, so we have two special presentations tonight. As you know, earlier in this week we talked about bonding. We met with our bonding attorneys, our financial advisor, and Huntington Bank about the process. Included in that is the plan administrator, which in this particular case is MERS. Our first discussion is going to be from MERS, and our second is going to be from Watkins Ross. And with that, I will turn that over to them for them to talk about plan administration and bonding. And this is Matt Taylor, who is our representative that we deal with MERS on a regular basis.
So everybody should have a copy here. Thank you, Brian. Again, my name is Matt Taylor. I'm your regional manager, the county's regional manager for MERS. And with me today is Marnie Daggett, who is also regional manager. I'll let her introduce herself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Marnie Daggett. I'm also a regional manager with MERS, and Matt and my job is to work with municipalities in Michigan from all the different aspects. So we work with the boards, we work with your administration and with your union groups and your employees to ensure that we can provide the information that you need from all the different options that you have within your plans and looking from that perspective. So if you follow along in the packet that you received from MERS, the first thing is we'll just talk really quickly about the partnership with MERS in Shiawassee County, the roles from a fiduciary responsibility perspective, and then continuing that partnership and some of those options as Brian mentioned to bonding. So that first page talks about MERS just celebrated our 75th annual anniversary, and so we have been proud to partner with Shiawassee County since 1963. And you're not alone. In fact, 87% of Michigan counties are in MERS, and your employees enjoy that large representation. There's over 117,000 public employees that are a part of MERS in the state of Michigan, and so that's a well-known, well-trusted group that we enjoy working with your employees on. From that perspective, MERS was built from the idea of cost sharing and shared services back 75 years ago, and we moved from 13 municipalities up to 950 different independent local governments. And we pool those assets with over $14 billion in assets to give you the economies of scale and the cost reduction that comes along with that. And that allows us to offer a broad range of benefits and customizable plans to allow you to adjust your plans as you negotiate with your employees and to customize those from a recruiting, retention, and then retirement for your employees. So we're really focused on that. We're grounded in our mission, meaning we were created by municipalities and for municipalities. We're here as a non-for-profit, which means every savings, when we pool those assets as more and more groups join MERS, those reduction in those costs then are passed directly onto you. And so we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like coming up. I do want to point out the fiduciary because that's important from a bonding perspective and just for your knowledge as well. MERS is governed by an elected board and they operate without compensation. And so when they do that, they are focused on accountability. They're really focused on transparency, holding the cost down and watching for best interest. And the way they can do that is they are members just like you. In fact, we have several counties represented on our board members. We have 3 employee representatives on the board. We have 3 employer representatives, meaning they represent the administration. We have 2 investment experts that sit on the board, and as well as a retiree to represent the retiree's voice as well. And so why I bring that up is because of the fact that MERS is unique in that we take on the sole fiduciary responsibility for the plan. What that means to you is that from a fiduciary perspective, we are unique in the state of Michigan. Most plan administrators offer co-fiduciary responsibilities, meaning that puts the responsibility back on this particular board. And so from that perspective, when we take on the sole fiduciary responsibility, that means you're not personally liable for the decisions made in the retirement plan. You don't have to have fiduciary insurance. You don't have to have errors and omissions insurance. That's something that we cover for you. And that's why we have those pooled resources, is to cover that for you. We go to the next page, you look at that. So we break it down from a fiduciary perspective. There's the legal compliance. So we come alongside you as you know, laws change on a consistent basis. So does federal and state legislative policies. So we keep you abreast from that perspective. Also, we'll talk about investment oversight and then really want to talk about reasonable expenses as well, because that's very important. With the pooled sharing resources, that allows you the opportunity to have a lot of expenses shared with the 950 other municipalities. And from that perspective, when we look across the state, the average plan that isn't pooling their resources pays about 1% from a cost perspective. In the MERS plan, you pay 0.26 of that 1%, so a quarter of that. And that's important. Slow down. That's important, and we'll share a little bit more what that means to the county in the next plans. On page 8, you can see from a plan administrative perspective, there were some questions around what does MERS do, what are the costs and the fee structure. We try to make that very transparent in your annual and quarterly statements. But behind the scenes, we do a lot of pieces, and so that graph to the right, or that chart to the right, talks about that from a plan governance perspective. MERS takes on that responsibility. And so we draw up the plan documents, we manage those. If you change things from a negotiating perspective, we make sure that stays in compliance. We have auditors and legal counsel to ensure that if there's a disability or if there's questions as employees go through a divorce, how do we split up the pension, all of those things, we handle that for you so that you don't have to do that on the side. We also, as I mentioned before, work with state and federal legislators to make sure that your voice is heard from a county's perspective and from a municipality perspective. Financial reporting, GASB 68 and all PA 202 and all those pieces, we provide that information so you don't have to pay auditors and other groups to go out and get that information for you. Actuarial services. As you know, we just provided you your annual valuation this June, and then just also provided a report for Treasury if you're looking to bond, and so we provide that from our actuaries, Gabriel Roeder Smith. We do that free of charge. And then from a really big focus on participants and your employees and education, we want to partner with you from that perspective. We have teams come out to meet with your employees to make sure they understand the benefits, because if they understand the benefits that you're offering, they understand the value that you're putting on them and for them. When we talk about that, what does it look like from a plan administrative perspective? You can see on the next page, on page 9, we just talk about a snapshot in time of what it looks like that MERS does for you, so you don't have to hire someone to do that. We handle the direct deposit changes, the address changes, the beneficiary changes, investment changes, tax changes, retirement applications, benefit estimates. Those are things that MERS can take on so that you don't have to do that yourselves. Any questions thus far? All right. As we move forward, I wanted to talk a little bit about the investment governance, because that's been a question from this board in the past and in our previous meetings, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about the layering effect that you get. As I mentioned, MERS manages over $14 billion in assets, and so we bring 75 years of experience in that pooling of those assets to give you a lot of different layers from a protective perspective. Best practices is that you have investors, and you also have a retirement board, and then you have some kind of oversight committees within that to make sure that those are in compliance and that the fiduciary responsibility is taken care of. As you can see from this perspective, MERS has 4 layers. So not only do we have the Office of Investments that works with our global managers to invest those $14 billion, but we also have a portfolio review committee and an investment committee. And what they do, those experts outside of MERS, allow us to make sure that your investments are properly invested and they're doing that for an advantage to the plan. For those of you who really like investments and want to know more about that, on the next page you can go to the resources on our website for defined benefit plans and look at our policy statement. From defined benefit to defined contribution to hybrid to 457 to the healthcare savings program, we have policy statements to let you know the kind of oversight and things that we do for you and for your employees. Page 12, when we talk about investments, everyone wants to talk about performance, right? That's why you invest your money, to have it grow. And from that perspective, when we look at a defined benefit plan, as you know, we have what's called an assumed actuarial rate of return. That's that target, right? So you want to at least return that 7.35 over the long period of time to make sure that your investments are helping your particular portfolio. As you can see in that bottom chart, at the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 7 year, 10 year, I can go out to 30 years. MERS performance over that period of time is above the 7.35%. So we're doing what we've said we're going to do from an assumption perspective. Also from a policy benchmark perspective, you can see policy benchmark is simply us taking similar investments as they are in the marketplace and comparing us and seeing if we're doing better than what the marketplace would do. And the answer is in that blue box there, as of the end of third quarter, the year-to-date performance for the portfolio this year is 10.64%, so well above that 735. And we're outperforming our benchmark, so what it would do in the marketplace outside of MERS management, by 3.71%. That's a lot of fun in theory, but what does it mean to you? And so Matt's going to go over a little what the information and what the numbers have been doing for Shiawassee County in particular.
Yeah. Any questions there? Thank you, Marty. Any questions there before?
Just a very brief question, if I may. What is the advantage to this board and to the county of having you as a sole fiduciary as opposed to a co-fiduciary?
Yeah. From a sole fiduciary perspective, we take on all of that liability. From a co-fiduciary responsibility, that means each of you as individuals can be liable for decisions made from a retirement plan perspective, and that you are then responsible as well to make those decisions, all that oversight, all those other governance things, to make sure that those are properly handled and administered. And so that may be through one or more employer or one or more third-party provider, but those responsibilities would then fall upon this board, and then typically boards that do that then take on some extra insurance from a fiduciary insurance, from errors and omissions insurance, and pieces like that.
Thank you.
Yes.
So as Marty mentioned, we have consistently outperformed the benchmark. and that has impacted the county in a very positive way. Even in the volatile marketplace, over the last 10 years, we have been able to return $52.5 million back into the trust from our investments over the last 10 years. And I'll just flip through the pages here. So we have been successful.
What happened in 15 and
2015 and 2018, we had there were negative returns in those 2 years, and so that and thank you for the question. And that was my point about it being a volatile marketplace over the last 10 years. Even so, we've been able to overcome that and still return $52.5 million into the plan over that same period of time. So we've been successful at investing the county's money, and we provide a lot of the services that Marnie talked about. But one of the most critical pieces to managing a pension fund is keeping those costs low, keeping the costs low in the plan, and we've been very good at doing that. Excessive fees can eat up those earnings that we've provided into the plan, so it's important that we keep those costs low. So on a regular basis, we put out RFPs to our vendors. We keep them honest. We do that on a regular basis. We make sure that they are providing us with a reasonable cost. We benchmark ourselves against other like plans. Because of the size and scope of our pooled assets being $14 billion, it puts us in a position of strength in our negotiations. We've been able to keep our administration costs low and efficient. We manage a defined benefit, defined contribution 457 supplemental savings plan, a number of different plans outside of that, that we are able to apply our processes to across the board. So again, low cost and less work for the employers that we represent. Because we are a public entity, exactly like the county, we value disclosure, we value transparency. All of our fees are in full sight. Our employers and employees are very aware of exactly what our costs look like. So what's the bottom line? What's the bottom line to Shiawassee County? The bottom line is that we have reduced our plan costs by 33% over the last 5 years. And I'm pretty sure that you're not going to hear a lot of businesses that have done that over that same period of time. As Marnie mentioned, our fees are at 26 basis points. That's 8 basis points for the investment piece and 18 basis points for the administration costs. That's $2.60 for every 1,000. And I'd like to reiterate the reason for that is our size and scope. That $14 billion worth of assets we leverage to keep those costs low. So moving to page 16, the county has paid less in 2016, in 2020 than you paid in 2016. And to give you some context around that, we recently did an analysis for a like-sized municipality or a municipality, home rule municipality of about $70 million in assets. The county currently is at 84. And what we found is that they were paying over 1.15%. So that equaled $920,000 worth of fees that they were paying. If that same group would have been with MERS at that time, they would have paid $208,000. So it's a difference of $700,000 paid in fees that were unnecessary. The county in 2020 paid $224,023 in fees in 2020. Again, the reason for that is, again, our size and scope, our ability to negotiate, and our ability to provide services all in-house. So I want to talk a little bit about what this looks like going forward. Moving to page 18. So we've talked a little bit with the county about the possibility of, one of the short-term options is to extend your amortization period out for a longer period of time. So that unfunded accrued liability can be paid out over, down into the future and lowering short-term costs as one option. We also talked about MERS willing to sit down and look through all of the divisions in the defined benefit plan, scour them, look for potential cost savings opportunities within the divisions in the defined benefit plan. We're willing to do that. As Marnie mentioned, the county contacted us and asked us about the possibility of bonding. And I'm going to reiterate what Marnie said earlier. We did provide a bond report at no cost to the county. And we will be happy to come alongside as you move through this process if you decide to move forward. So talking about pension obligation bond, a pension obligation bond simply is a state or local government bond issued to help finance unfunded accrued liability. Over the last 5 years, there have been 18 municipalities that have chose to go the bond route. We've worked alongside all of them. In theory, bonds are a good way to save the employer money, but we do want to make clear that there are risks involved, as I'm sure you're very aware of. It's a complex finance decision. It's different for every municipality. As you know, in the state of Michigan, all municipalities are different in the way that they provide their benefits to their employees. So it very much is an independent decision that the county will be making if they choose to bond. From a MERS perspective, in terms of bonding, we will provide the same value that we do today. So we'll invest those dollars the same way we do today. We've returned over 8.69% over the last 35 years. We'll continue to do that with those bond proceeds. We'll continue to provide the services that we've provided up to this date and since 1963. We'll continue to do that. We'll assure that the assumptions are reasonable in the plan. We work with our actuarial group, Gabriel Roeder-Smith, to make sure that those assumptions are as close to the experience of the plan as they possibly can be. We do all of that for you, and we'll continue to do that for you. Brian, I'm going to stop there in regards to bonding. Are there any questions that you have in terms of our role and what we would, how we would support you, or?
Just a little bit of information to the audience. Essentially, bonding would be us remortgaging this, and we owe MERS $50 million in unfunded liabilities, and so this would be us borrowing that $50 million all at once, turning the money over to MERS, and then financing that out at a lower cost to the county over the next, I can't remember, 18 years that Huntington Bank proposed to us. So all the money and all the unfunded liability would be turned over and paid up to MERS, and then they would be investing that. And the assumption is that we would make more by doing it that way at a lower cost, because currently we're paying $4.1 million in unfunded liabilities every year, an additional $1.1 million in current fees for employees or current services, and then together, that's $5.3 million. And then over the course of the next several years, that unfunded number blossoms into $6-some million, which will become unsustainable over the course of the next 10 to 12 years for the county. So by doing this, we're essentially cutting our bill in half, but financing it out longer over the course of time.
I'd add to that, Ryan, thank you, that the normal costs you're referring to, not the legacy costs that you would be bonding for, but the normal cost is just another year of accrual for each individual in the plan, and that fees are incorporated in that, but that's not just a standalone fee, just to be clear.
Yes, it's our current, what we accrue.
If I could ask an
Sure.
question at this point, because we talked about the fact that there is a certain amount of risk in doing a pension obligation bond. Let me see if I have my mind correctly wrapped around the risk. The fact of the matter is we borrow $50 million, and then we pay whatever the percentage, 2.5% or something like that. And of course, we'll have to make those payments. The money will be invested by MERS. If you continue to have a good return, we make more money than we're paying. However, if it goes the other way, if some bad stuff happens, and perhaps there's a downturn in the market, of course, we still owe that amount of money, and then our obligation increases. that makes sense. However, if we do not bond, doesn't that obligation increase anyway? Because the market still does a downturn, therefore our base amount that we have invested with MERS goes down, and we still end up owing more anyway. Is it just that we have more invested with MERS to go down, or what
Yeah.
is it?
So, a great question, and I would address that by saying that the difference would be standalone, if there is a downturn or 2008, I think what you're referring to, the difference in those two scenarios would be, you now have a bond payment along with it, and I think that's the biggest separation of the two examples that you provided, if the downturn was equal in both scenarios, if you will.
And I think that's an important thing to note, because MERS, I think there's some idea that MERS is just this money that's sitting out there somewhere that's a pension, but it is a market-based pension as well, because you guys are investing it. So fluctuations in the market will affect us, whether it's with MERS or whether it's bonded and then the money given over to MERS. The market stability is going to affect us either way.
But in the absence of bonding, if there's a downturn, doesn't our unfunded liability obligation go up anyway?
Yes, it does.
So either way, with a market downturn, our costs are gonna go up because we have this unfunded amount.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Well, it is,
Just,
they are projected to go up. And, we have to remember, and just for clarification, that each valuation, and the one that Marnie referred to earlier in 2020 is the most recent, is a reflection of one period of time. And those projections are built off that. So depending on what the experience of 2020 is, it will be, the cost of the future cost will be dependent on what happens in 2021. We're having another positive year in terms of market. I'm not to suggest that the cost will either go up or down. I'm just saying that it's not guaranteed that it will go down.
I understand, I'm just looking at possible risks.
Fair. Yep. And then,
Yeah, I think one of the things we find when I'm working with groups that are looking at bonding is making sure that it's just truly an understanding that you can't even bond for 100%, right? You can only bond for a total of 95% of the bond, and so or the total unfunded liability. And so there have been in the past groups that are originally bonded, and they thought, okay, we're done. We're not going to have to pay anymore. Like, we're just going to pay this. And I want to tell you that that's not the case, right? So just to be aware of that from that perspective, that something could be at stake. So I think you have an understanding, but I think that's one of the risks of, as groups are going into this, is making sure they're understanding that, again, if there's a disability, if there's retirees who live longer than you expect, that number is going to always fluctuate and change. So you're going to bond at a certain point in time. There may, again, be some unfunded liability. There will be immediately, right, because you're not bonding for the full amount. But that's just when you're calculating your budget, and we've worked with our actuaries to do that with other groups that have bonded, is look at your bond repayment, so you get that in a spreadsheet and that kind of payment, but also look at what your normal costs are going to be projected from that perspective, and then a fluctuation from, we have usually 1 or 2%, so that you can see, okay, from a budget perspective, we're going to add this bond repayment, plus this MERS payment, plus the fluctuation, and that gives you a more solid idea of what that looks like. I think you have a good understanding of it, for sure, but that's one of the things I find the most of, is people come back surprised going, oh, I thought we were just done. And I'm like, no, you still have people who are working in the MERS plan, and so you're still going to have those costs, plus that unfunded liability that can fluctuate, for sure. But to your point, yes.
The major difference is that we'll be paying for the employees that are working in the year.
Correct.
And not the unfunded liabilities.
Correct.
That's what
Absolutely,
would still
which
be
is a big advantage,
occurring for MERS.
for sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Except for that 5%, right, that 5%.
Well, we have enough cash that we can probably pay that.
And I have some groups that do that. Yeah, they say we'll bond for the 95, and then we're going to have a cash reserve to do that, so that we get a little bit more in playing fields. Absolutely.
I do like that.
any further questions? So in closing, I would like to say that, Marnie and I are working with employers every day on all of these types of, bonding and looking at their plans, trying to save on costs, and we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to, as your current administrator, we'll continue to come alongside in a bonding scenario. We're happy to do that. We understand these are, defined benefit plans are complicated, and we understand that. So we would like to continue to work with you, and we would suggest that in the coming weeks that we meet again to dive deeper into all, a little more detail on all of the topics that we discussed tonight. And again, we thank you very much for your time.
I will note that the evaluation that they provided is what fed the numbers for the Huntington Bank proposal. So that's what it's based on. They've already worked with them on that issue.
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Our second presenter is Christian Veenstra. Is that correct? Yes. From Watkins Ross. Please come on up. Now, as we talked about earlier, MERS is the pension plan fiduciary, and we would not change that until we're done bonding. But in the event that there is some interest in that from the board, Watkins Ross is here to discuss that. But at the current moment, nothing has changed.
Thank you for having me. My discussion, my presentation will in some ways highlight the differences between what would happen for you in our scenario versus MERS scenario. And the way I like to couch this is to say this isn't a good guy versus bad guy type of opportunity or option. It's a different way of approaching it. Michael Nordum from Maynard Wealth has been organizing the different pieces to address all the components that MERS currently does as a one-stop shop. If you go to MERS, they will handle your assets, they will handle your actuarial work, all the things that they listed. With our type of an arrangement, we want that to function very similarly in that Michael Nordum can head it up and bring all the parties to the table so that you don't have to go out and find an actuary, you don't have to go out and find an investment advisor, but that he can assist you in bringing those options to the table so that you can have all those bases covered. So why would you do that? Why would you take that approach? A one-stop shop is an attractive option. It certainly is. What an individual option like ours presents is you have an investment advisor who can tailor your investments to your particular plan's needs. I don't know if any of you happen to be on the webcast presentation that I was able to participate in on Tuesday, but we talked about looking at the liabilities of a plan and finding an investment strategy that aligns with your obligations. There's a lot of terms floating around: asset liability management, similar maturity dates and so forth. The gist of it being is that if your assets are aligned with your liabilities, you have a greater chance of success of providing your benefits. And I'll use for an example our pension plan at Watkins Ross. We have with our investment advisor a payment strategy, bonds aligned with our cash flow needs for the next 5 years. March of 2020, the market tanked. Our liability took a beating, and we didn't worry about it because we knew we would meet our benefit payments for the next 5 years because that's the way the portfolio was structured. We did not have to liquidate in the down market. We weren't forced sellers. And as you know, it's a lot easier sharing this story now because the market came roaring back and we're strong as ever. It's that type of individual attention that our type of an arrangement brings. Which brings me to me. Who am I? What's my role? Watkins Ross has been in business since 1948, started by two gentlemen by the name of Bob Watkins and Dick Ross in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we're still doing well. We're doing as strong as ever. Our bread and butter for years has been traditional defined benefit plans in the private space, but we have gotten more and more into the public space, particularly in the retiree healthcare side, where my friends at MERS do not monopolize the field. In fact, if you put up a map of Michigan, take a dart, cover your eyes and throw it, if you hit that map, you will hit a client of ours. I pretty much guarantee it. We have clients east to west, north to south, and out of state as well. We have about 400 defined benefit clients, pension and retiree health care. We have a staff of 29 people, 5 credentialed actuaries on that staff, and we would have a team from the actuarial side, myself as consultant, a gentleman by the name of Troy Schnabel as the certifying actuary, and an analyst. Depending on your needs timing wise, we have one that's got a lot of 630s, so could pick up a 1-1 very easily. We also have another analyst that's heavily involved with our public space that would be a great person to work with you on a day-to-day basis. An advantage that we bring as an independent actuary is we have no conflicting interest with respect to how you fund your plan. Our counsel, our discussions with you would be strictly along the lines of how best can your investments line up with your liabilities. We would bring the liability piece to the discussion so that you understand what those liabilities mean, what a liability that's heavily weighted to retirees relative to actives mean, what the implications of a 30-year amortization versus a 10-year amortization are, what that means for your funded status on a projected basis, on and on. We would work closely with Michael. You would certainly be involved heavily with that as well. With respect to being fiduciaries, it can be a little intimidating, it can be a little daunting to say, oh boy, now you guys are going to be fiduciaries. I sit on a couple of boards of trustees of pension plans myself, and one of the first things they talk about when with an individual when you sit down to become a trustee in that situation is the liability that was mentioned with respect to being a fiduciary. That might sound intimidating, but it's a little bit like asking you, would you rather be driven everywhere the rest of your life, or you want to drive the car yourself? At some point you say, I can do this, I can figure this out. Pension plan trustees have been wearing that fiduciary hat for years. So that should not, I don't see that as something that should concern you. We certainly, again, are in the business of helping you understand your liabilities so that you are making well-informed decisions. The attractiveness of being your own fiduciary is being able to make investment decisions that suit your situation better than a one-size-fits-all type of scenario. And similarly, with respect to the actuarial valuation, to be able to have conversations with us to understand the assumptions that are going into the actuarial report, to talk about benefit changes. If we want to help you annuitize a certain portion of your retiree population, we have the opportunity to have that conversation with you to describe what would be a good strategy for you, what's an attractive group to annuitize, what would be the impact for you, and so on and so forth. So I'll stop talking for a minute to give you a chance to ask questions if you'd like to. But that's the long and short of it.
I have a question.
You bet.
Actually, two.
Good.
What happens to the people who have paid into MERS who are currently drawing if we switch?
So MERS, for a long time, getting out was a challenge, but they have since loosened the reins. And as you know, as you're going through that process right now, and one of the steps in that process would be that whatever assets you currently have allocated to you right now go with you when you leave. And so those participants would continue to draw benefits from those assets. How does that function logistically? Is that Michael Nordum is bringing in a piece of a administrator who would handle that portion of it with respect to cutting the checks. We would be the ones doing the benefit calculations. The administrator that Michael Nordum brings in, he might say, no, I want to take up that role, but somebody would cover that role, whether it be he or whether it be us, performing the benefit calculations, providing the benefit packets, and seeing that the participants are getting the right benefit options available to them.
So their amount that they're able to draw and the length of time that they're able to draw would not change?
Would not change. That is correct. Yep. It would not be impacted.
Okay, and so my second question is then, what is your fee expense percentage?
Yeah, so we as actuaries, since we're doing a portion of this, as you say, we do not draw basis points on your assets. If your assets are $100 million, $3 million, $300,000, our fees are the same. Now, I didn't know to what extent Michael presented these to you. The two main pieces of our role, if you will, is providing the funding valuation and the GASB 6768 report for you. And we quoted based on your plan size, which is, when I say size, based on the number of covered lives. We have a base plus a per head fee that brings it to just under $22,000 a year for those two reports. We have a per employee benefit calculation fee if a person retires and needs a benefit calculation and packet performed. We have that on a per person basis of $290 per packet. So however many people would retire would drive that cost there. But again, it's not a basis points on your assets type of an arrangement.
Other questions? There's no other fees then?
Well, so yeah, great question. That shouldn't be missed in all of this. Michael Nordum has his investment fee schedule that he would present to you as part of your decision-making process. This is just the actuarial fee side of it. And Michael Nordum would also have the record-keeping costs folded in with his as well. So this was one piece that I provided to him. Again, in the MERS scenario, it's kind of an all-in, all-one composite amount. I don't know what it is, what that amount is. They would have to answer that so you could compare apples to apples. I can only tell you, again, in each of us, the different players would tell you what our respective fees are, and the numbers I gave were mine, the actuarial work. And for better or for worse, it's transparent. You know what you're paying in our scenario.
So, sorry,
Yep.
it sounds like there are several different players that would each have fees. So to know
Yes.
the total fee, you have to add them all up.
Yes,
And in MERS, all of that's included in what we pay.
that is correct. That is correct. Yep.
You don't even have a ballpark fee? I mean,
Oh, for what
No.
Michael Nordum's piece would be, he would as part of his presentation to you on the investment side of it, tell you what his basis points are.
So this is just the first step in looking at who the plan administrator will be. Tonight, all you're going to be voting on is bonding to give the money to MERS. And then the other part would be discussed probably in 6 to 7 months after the bonding is complete.
And if you do vote on the bonding piece tonight, and you do decide to give your money to MERS, you can still withdraw, and you would ultimately take that money with you. The bonding obligation that you have stays with you, whether you go with MERS, whether you go with the Michael Nordum arrangement with us. Yeah, the bonding ability is an attractive piece, not to shape your decision one way or the other. One county on the other side of the state did it at a very inopportune time in the market. It took a beating right after they had made the decision, and it looked very foolish, and as you know, it has since recovered, and they're doing fine. And you, of course, Mr. Broder, made the observation that with or without bonding, if the market goes down, you've got a shortfall to make up anyway. It certainly seems like with the very low interest rate environment that is an attractive option to consider.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. At this time, we'll have our first opportunity for the public to address the board. I've got a number of slips here. Each person will have up to 3 minutes. I ask you to address your comments to the chair or to the board as a whole, and please adhere to our rules of decorum. So with that, I will ask Cindy Pettit.
Okay, Chris.
Hi. I wasn't going to talk about this tonight, but it came to my attention that another county was addressing this issue. And so I want to talk to you about vaccine passports. And I am definitely opposed to them. I have multiple sclerosis. I have never stopped working or doing my own shopping because of COVID-19. I've continued to do everything I had to do to run my business and my life. And I will not be getting the COVID shot. My primary care physician and my neurologist always push the flu vaccine. Neither one of them has even suggested the COVID shot, and that says a lot to me. I spoke with my neurologist. At this time, there is not enough data about the effects of the COVID shot on people with MS. My understanding of how the COVID shot works is that it affects the B cells. My MS treatment kills my B cells. So I don't even know if it would work for me, and nobody knows that. I might be taking a risk with potentially no gain at all. We do know that some people have had horrible and sometimes life-threatening side effects. For someone with MS, those effects could trigger a relapse and cause permanent disability. I am not an anti-vaxxer. I had all my childhood vaccines, as did my children. But at this point, I'm less afraid of COVID-19 than I am of the COVID shot. I could never get COVID-19 and I would be just fine, or I could take this shot, have a serious relapse, and never walk again. I have permanent damage to my optic nerves from MS. A serious relapse could blind me, and I'd never see my kids and grandkids again. A serious relapse could make me unable to work and totally dependent on the government and others for my care. Every day I can work, walk, and see is a gift, and I will not jeopardize that. I'm not the only person with a medically valid reason not to take the COVID shot. There are many people for whom it is more of a danger than a source of hope. Why should these people be penalized for not putting themselves at risk? There are people who have had COVID-19 and survived, and that gave them natural immunity. I don't understand why that isn't factored into the equation. Why should those people be penalized for not taking an injection that they don't need? So here we are talking about COVID passports or vaccine passports. I've worked and shopped and kept myself healthy through this whole thing. And now I may lose the privilege of doing those things because I, along with my medical care team, have made an informed decision and I'm not going to get the COVID shot. No, thank you. I don't need or want anyone's permission to run my business and my life. That is not a privilege, it is my right. I will not be segregated, discriminated against, or in any way treated like a second-class citizen. Thank you.
Shelley Akinicki, please.
Thank you. Shelley Akinicki, Boston Board of Education. Fast forwarding from yesterday, we opened schools with guidance, not requirements from our health department. Since then, on October, I had 2 phone calls, voicemails into our county health director without a response to get some questions answered. Some of them were legal questions I'll point out here in a moment. Just have a conversation and get guidance and better understanding why we're making the decisions we're making. So I did not get a call back. So following chain of command, I did reach out yesterday to Dr. Boggs to get questions answered that I have had, and he was unable to answer them. Offered to facilitate a meeting today at 12:30 between myself, Chairman Brodeur, and our health director, and our health director declined coming to that meeting today. That meeting still happened, and I still have questions and that are still unanswered at this point. So a couple things. I am told that the quarantine and isolation is a requirement from the state, yet I've never found a document, had a document been produced. And so again, and this is what we did get at the beginning of the year, the school year, and is now updated September 23rd, is guidance and recommendations I highlighted for you and I will share from the state of Michigan. No requirements that I have been able to find and have been anyone else been able to find. From that brings some of the legal question that I guess I have. We received, school count day was October 6th. Just find it ironic, October 7th. Requirements from our county health department come out in this form here, which I will also share with you. I questioned the document itself as being legal and a formal document of a mandate coming from our health department. From there, I have in my hand from 3 separate counties, formal documents, and we do, I think, have a lawyer here tonight, that shows what the requirements look like coming out of a health department. It looks like a legal document versus this to me is more of a memo. And so it comes up to, at the very end, signed and dated by the health director in these counties, 3 of them here. I'm going to share that with Dr. Boggs to make copies for you. And so when I look at this, in my opinion, we do not have a legal binding document that is a requirement in Shiawassee County unless I am missing something. Those are the questions I had for our health director that I was not able to get answered, and I want to share with you tonight. I don't know what to do with that. In my opinion, right now, we have no requirements in Shiawassee County. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Brooks, please.
Good evening once again. I just have a couple of questions that tie to a couple of the items that were on the agenda from last night. The 2 vehicles that are being proposed for purchase, for whom and in what departments. There was also an item that came out on the agenda last night that wasn't on the agenda, but whatever, but something was mentioned later about the Henderson Park bids. What is that doing, and is that from the parks budget? And I'm still a little confused about the Durand School Wellness Program for the $150,000. It was mentioned it was for the nurse and social workers. It's on tonight's agenda also. And I realize that that's funded by state grants because that was mentioned last night. Is this in addition to the $82,101 for social work services approved last month for Durand? And Perry was also included in their own $82,000. And is this state or county funded? Are they separate programs, or are they one program, or what is that? And how is it that it appears that only Durand is getting major monies for these school programs? It was stated that Perry started 3 years ago with the program. So what happened to Corunna and Owasso and Langsburg and some of the other schools that are around? How come they're not seeing some of this state-funded grant monies, whatever it is, however it is? And just one final little comment. Mr. Brodeur mentioned last night about the liabilities of Shiawassee County, the financial liabilities. And it sounds to me, and I understand seeing that other governments have been having the same problems with their liabilities with the pension funding and so forth, but it sounds to me like it's a little ARPA money here and a little ARPA money there that has been being passed around or proposed for different events since July. And could these eat into the big funds that you were suggesting last night as to how the money could be spent in a different fashion than what other people are maybe asking for or suggesting and so forth? But a little, piddly drop here, a little piddly drop there, 20,000 here, 30,000 there, it adds up after a while. And so you could end up losing some of the monies that you were possibly talking about for bigger projects or future liabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. That would be fine, thank you. Mary Brady, please.
It's Marcy Brady, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'm here today just about the MERS. I received an email from a concerned county employee about the email that was sent out on October 8th stating that you would be discussing that you're reducing the MERS obligation. And underneath it, it said, this notice reads, the participating municipality must notify in a manner reasonably designed to provide adequate notice to members, retirees, and local businesses of collective bargaining units 15 days prior to the first regularly scheduled meeting required herein to move to a non-MERS successor plan. I don't think that is completely what's being discussed here today, but if it is, the employees didn't get 15 days notice, the retirees received no notice. And I guess my one question would be is, I think MERS is willing to work with you from what I've heard today. You have another company willing to work with you. I think you should stay with MERS. My question would be, if you go with the Watkins bonding, would we automatically be leaving MERS, or is that a two-step process and that process would start doing the non-MERS successor plan some other time and we'd be notified as retirees? This board, about a month ago, decided to move my 457 plan to another entity, Blue Star, and I had received no notice. I got my statement in the mail October 10th. My money was gone. I got online to check. Because I had gotten a Blue Star pamphlet, which I didn't understand what it was even about. So I got into that pamphlet, I logged on to Blue Star, there was my money, which I've already lost money. There was no beneficiaries listed, so if I would have died October 3rd, my family probably would not have acquired all the money I had put into the 457 plan. This county contributed zero to our previous 457 plan, zero. You benefited from the 457 plan because you didn't have to pay Social Security taxes on the amount of money I was deposited in the 457 plan, yet no one was notified, no one. It just happened, poof, we're gone, changed, no representative, no knowledge. I feel like MERS is being handled the same way. The retirees deserve to be notified if there's any change whatsoever in our retirement plan.
Thank you. Matthew Shepard.
I'm just wondering about the obligation of this county board to the citizens of Shiawassee County. The ARPA funds, as I've stated in the past few months, were supposed to go towards businesses, small businesses primarily. I agree wholeheartedly with your comment. We should not have vaccine passports or anything such thing in this country nationwide. But getting back to the ARPA funding, you folks delegated and allocated funds to this county and their employment way before you even considered giving it out to those that suffered the most in this county, which were small businesses that had to downsize their opportunity to have business, and their employment staffing, which also suffered immensely. Many businesses throughout Michigan, approximately 9,000, shut their doors fully and permanently because of COVID mandates that infringed upon their rights. The second thing I'd like to bring up is under Finance and Administration Committee, item G, approved creation and hiring of part-time secretary and sheriff's department not to exceed $10,000 for fiscal year 2022 without benefits. Each of you sits on this board as a part-time employee elected for $10,000 approximately, with additional benefits for chairperson. And you also get full medical and retirement benefits. No part-time employee in the private sector gets these type of benefits. You're going to limit this person while you keep it yourself. A few years ago, you decided to do away with those benefits, and then a couple years later, you turned around and reappointed them to yourselves. That's shown a lot of benefit to the society in Shiawassee County. In Health and Human Services, I bring up the point of D, approved board appointment to the Veterans Board. Are you skipping the full protocol in which you're going to appoint this individual? No service organization, I've been told, has backed this individual for the Veterans Committee. Myself and many others have applied to this committee several years running, and none of us have been accepted. I reserve the right to redress this.
Melissa
Shut.
Shutt. You.
Everybody wants to say shoot, so. Thank you. First of all, as I sit here today, as an executive director of a transit agency, I have sympathy for you for the challenges that you have to face now, especially with the pandemic, adding even more into the challenges of administrating a county. But today I want to talk to you a little about, share my concerns, because I don't think it should be a challenge for an employee handbook to go through the proper channels to be reviewed and considered by all board members rather than just presented as a document. It's my understanding that under the Finance and Administration Committee item C, which I think you mean personnel handbook, not policy, but that was, the committee was one commissioner and then the rest was county staff. And through that process, 2 years, like, that's reasonable, right? You're a county, you've got a lot to get through, and unions situations. So, but the way that we just did our employee handbook a year ago was, as the director, I would make my recommendations to the board. We took one section at a time, every meeting, every month. But we did it as a whole board. And they knew what was being changed. They knew what was coming out, and what was going in. And so I just have concerns, especially considering the last 6 months of, this board and the integrity that's been under question, and the mockery that has been made of our county, that this would be approved. I'm curious if my District 2 chairman or District 2 commissioner had the opportunity to see the process of this update to the employee handbook all through the last, well, obviously not the last 2 years because you're new, but just that again, did all of the commissioners have the opportunity to have input into what's going in and what's coming out of this employee handbook? That's transparency. That's what transparency looks like. And so I'm just asking that you do not support that until you've had the opportunity to completely flesh out and vet that document of what changed. Thank you.
David, I still cannot pronounce your last name.
Shiawassee. That's check. Okay. Just a simple guy with some simple questions. This would be regarding MERS, of course, as well as I think many of us here are retired, and we served Shiawassee County. I served here for 16 years as the building official, code enforcement officer, serving 14 townships, 14 supervisors, and 14 townships of taxpayers. I retired in February 2020. I think we had a company, as I remember, they said they came on board in 1953. So if my math is correct, we got 68 years of a pretty experienced company handling our pensions. I think that that isn't supposed to change for those of us that are retired, but I'm not sure if I heard it that way, but I thought the gentleman that kept talking about Michael Morton, that there might be a review on that. There might be changes on that. If I'm wrong, tell me. So I'm scared. We're all scared that have our retirements here. So, and I understood the cost from MERS, but I don't know. This gentleman, a nice person, I don't know, he's reminds me of Dr. Fauci, but anyhow, all over the board. I don't know where the costs are going to be on that. I think in the end, I would like to see something in written form from the commissioners or this individual and MERS to give us some actual written comparisons, so we can really look at it, not just listen to it, but read it and try to understand it better. So that's my 2 cents worth, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Carmen Chandler, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Carmen Chandler and I'm going to try to recap as quickly as I can because I will probably run out of time again. I'm here again tonight as a concerned parent due to the unsigned COVID mandate that has been placed upon the Shiawassee County Public Schools from the Shiawassee County Health Department. To recap, there were only COVID recommendations for the county public schools at the beginning of the school year. There were no mandates. Every family that signed their children up for school knew the COVID risk and that there were no mandates. Then, for still unknown reasons to the public, on October 7th, the first COVID mandate came unsigned from the county health department stating that all close contact students would be forced into quarantine. This came the day after count day. Convenience or coincidence? You decide. This overwhelmed some of the local school districts. Quarantine numbers compounded into the hundreds. They were then told by the county health department director, mask up and nobody has to quarantine. And that, my friends, is what brought this concerned mother here again tonight. We were told last night that this is a state quarantine mandate and not a county mandate. We have yet to see evidence to this statement unless the state is in the process of composing this as we speak. There were no COVID mandates. There were, in fact, recommendations from the county health department up until October 7th, and I have paperwork with me to prove this. Everything that I read through, I've highlighted recommendation, recommendation, recommendation in all of my paperwork. Has anyone figured out the purpose of the October 7th letter or found evidence to back that it came from the state? That this mandate came from the state? The health department owes the community an explanation. Since they are not stepping up to explain, maybe it's time the county commissioners take charge of this situation and do something else about it, since they are the ones that hire and fire these positions. As for my son, he's drawn the line in the sand at 13 years old. When will the rest of us stand up and do the same, no matter what our political beliefs are? Our freedoms and our country are under attack. Wake up, people. Wake up. That's what I pray every single day, that people in this county wake up and realize that this is more about just COVID and all these other things going on. It's about losing our freedoms, and that's what's happening. By the way, I'm not only an educator, but I also work in the medical field. I know what is healthy and unhealthy for my child, and masks are not. We do not want mandates in our county. Please hear concerned parents like myself and the others who are speaking out about this. And I guess I had enough time to say everything that I wanted to say tonight. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate all that you guys do, and I know that it's not an easy job.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Jerry Hagedorn?
Yes, I'm Jerry Hagedorn, and I retired from the county in 1999.
And I would like to say one thing. If it's not broken, don't fix it. I mean, you guys are changing things under the table. We don't even know what's going on. Things are happening. People are getting money out there. People who should get money, like those people at the ambulance service who actually deal with COVID people, small businesses. I mean, we people are concerned about what the hell you guys are doing. And I really think that MERS is the best way to go, because you don't know what's going to happen in the near future. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Kimberly Singer.
Good evening, Chairman Brodeur and Commissioners. My name is Kimberly Singer. I'm an RN and I reside with my husband in Shiawassee, or in rural Shiawassee County here, my entire life. I would like to address the Commissioners about redistricting. Shiawassee County shares a common cultural, historical background with common economic interests. The county is historically joined with a few townships from adjoining counties of similar cultural, historical, and economic interest to make up Michigan House District. Shiawassee County has a population of 68,000, which is close to the population requirement to be Michigan House District by itself. Our county is surrounded by Saginaw to our north, Genesee to our east, Ingham and Livingston to our south, and to our east, Clinton County. Shiawassee County basically holds the same cultural and economic interest as does Clinton County. We are largely a farming community where community members still gather safely to worship. Our children are free to play outside, and small town festivals still exist. We believe in God, family, and country. I have been very concerned. I've been in front of the commission on redistricting. Between my husband and I, we own and operate 6 small businesses. We are frontline workers. As I mentioned, I'm an RN. I own assisted livings. And we were and still are the frontline workers, and our businesses survived COVID. My concern is with this redistricting, and they're looking at redistricting us with Lansing and East Lansing. That is very scary, and I hope that each and every one of you are in front of the redistricting commission. I've been to Lansing, I've been writing letters, I'm emailing them. I'm just asking that you all, I know you're all aware of what's going on. I'm just asking that you're also involved in writing those letters and going to the commission on redistricting, because I fear that we are going to lose our 85th district if we don't all have a voice and let people know that we are a county that's very similar with Clinton County. We all know that redistricting happens every 10 years, but for them to draw these lines with Lansing and East Lansing is absolutely, it's just so far-fetched. We will absolutely lose our voice. I thank you for your time, and I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you very much. Tom Menke.
I understand you have a lot on your plate. You've heard a lot from different people tonight. You're weighing in on financial things, on what to do, what is going to be the best thing financially to do for the county. I understand all these things, and I understand that you're underneath the microscope of everyone in this county. And as you've heard, as of right now, there's a trust factor. You heard tonight from Shiawassee. She's the vice president of the largest school district in this county. We have no mandates. I don't care what anyone says. She brought in the mandates as required by the law. The counties she brought in were signed by their health directors. Our health director has not signed a mandate. He reminds me of a politician in Washington that just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning, but he never says anything. He tells you one thing, he tells me something else, and then he laughs and smiles and he wants everybody to get along. Well, if he is the director, then you've got to hold his feet to the fire. Either he signs the mandate, or you tell the schools that they're not going to be hanging out there to be sued. Shelley tells me that she hears from parents, they're looking at a lawsuit against the Shiawassee Public Schools. Why? Because they're doing a verbal mandate that is not in writing. I know you guys got a lot on your plate, and I know you don't want to deal with this COVID stuff, but you have to. And the bottom line is, there is no signed mandate. She tried to get one from the state. There is no signed mandate. That's why the counties were doing what they were supposed to do that she brought in the papers. Signed mandates. So, bottom line, what I'm hoping to hear from this board is that either the schools are going to, because the schools right now are being held accountable to laws that state that they're given mandates and they're not allowed to, unless Larry signs it. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask if the commissioners have any responses or comments regarding specifically the public comment today. Anyone want to clarify anything or comment on anything?
I think, did Commissioner Plowman answer Ms. Brooks' questions about why during? That was the only
next
one.
time. I actually have one thing. I have, this has come up in the last 2 days, this is about the mandate, and it turns out Tom is exactly right, there is no mandate. Let me explain for a moment, please. Under the law, our local health director has the power to have a mandate. It will be the signed mandate, much that you saw the other counties. Please don't hold me to all the legalities on this. I'm about 2 days into understanding this. At the beginning of the year, our health director sent out recommendations regarding how the school should handle COVID and the isolation and quarantine of students and so on, and left it to the school boards, the schools and the school boards to decide. At that point, at some point in early October, he got a note from the Attorney General that the language on this, because inside the document was the word requirement, that he should change the cover of that recommendation requirement. You got another one where the cover said requirement suddenly. I hope that sounds familiar to everyone. But here's the rub. He did not, oddly enough, despite the anger, he was trying to approach this, as I understand it, with a rather soft hand by not having a signed mandate. He has the authority to do that, but he did not, like other counties, the health director just, this is the mandate, this is what you got to do. And by the way, once he has that signed mandate, it becomes law with penalties. However, at this point, while there is this thing that says requirements, until there's a signed mandate, schools do not have to follow those recommendations, it is my understanding, and therefore you can talk to your schools. However, if they do not, the health director locally has the power to sign that mandate, and then it has the force of law. So that's where we are right now. I hope that kind of clarifies it. I hope I've stated what I found out for you folks in the last 2 days. I hope I've stated it correctly. If I've stated anything incorrectly, I'm not misleading you intentionally, but that's where we are right now. All right? All right.
If I could add just one more thing to that. I think then what that does is leaves the power of making the decision in the hands of the local school district.
That is correct.
And that's what has happened with Corona, is that they made this decision to do this because there's a recommendation or whatever you want to call it. And then, so the local school districts, which local school districts always want to have some kind of control, it leaves it to them based on their different circumstances and situations.
It
So
is my
that's-
understanding that absent a signed order, that while it says requirement, there is no legal force behind that, but the schools are well aware that if they don't take reasonable precautions against the spread of COVID, our health director might decide, I cannot speak what he will do, might decide and under law has the power to issue a signed order to the school districts. So that is my understanding of where we are, and if I helped cause any of this confusion yesterday through my misunderstanding because I was so fresh, I apologize. That is the best of my knowledge right now. All right, let's
So
move on.
I'm curious on everything.
Sure.
So, is it the individuals are not taking the responsibility of who says it's required? I mean, because where are we having so Larry sends out a recommended unsigned document, so there's no mandate. But then if the school says it is, why is the school falling back and blaming the health director? Instead of accepting the onus and saying, no, we got a recommendation from the health
we're done
board,
with public till
or the
next.
health department, or the health director, and it's our decision, we are making this decision, though it has no legal stand, because it's only a recommendation. That's where I see a lot of the miscommunications coming from. They keep throwing the ball back and forth. Larry's saying it's not me. I didn't mandate it. And then the health board or the school boards are saying, well, we got a mandate from the health director. We didn't want to mandate it. So why aren't we?
I'd like to be charitable and say that it was a misunderstanding. I would like to say that there wasn't any intention to deceive. It is a very hot potato that people would like to toss back and forth. I think I have summarized pretty well where we are. The school districts might feel that the requirements document was indeed had the force of law, but it is my understanding until it is signed, it does not. The state has thrown the power to make these decisions to the local health department. And as of right now, our health director is trying to not be dictatorial on this. Some health directors have been. They just immediately sent out, here's what you gotta do. By not signing it, there's more flexibility at the school level. There is. Once something is signed and sent out, it has the force of law.
So are we seeing, Commissioner Webster's on the school board, are we seeing like parents sending kids to school voluntarily with masks? You know, like,
Yes.
okay.
Some come voluntarily.
I mean, because
kids
is
are not
that,
required to wear a mask unless they have, if they're supposed to, this is a commissioner meeting, but if they're supposed to quarantine, but don't want to quarantine, they can still come to school and wear a mask. So if they were exposed in school, only in school, they can come to school if they wear a mask. So that's where there's the mandate, is you were supposed to stay home quarantine, but we're gonna let you come to school if you wear a mask. So then it's required if you were exposed. But and it is a hot potato being thrown back and forth, but the issue is that school districts don't feel like they have the health expertise. We aren't health experts. School boards aren't, school superintendents are, we're education experts. And education, as I'm sure Commissioner Marks can say, is a big enough challenge on its own these days without us also having to be experts in public health and know about epidemiology and all of these things. We don't know those. So we are looking to the health department for direction, and that's where it is a hot potato.
And recommendations were sent out.
Yes.
There's a difference between isolation and quarantine. Isolation being for those that have tested positive, quarantine. There are recommendations for the possibility of bringing kids into school if they're on this school, but they're required to have the nasal swab on a daily basis and have the 30-minute test. Again, I'm not a health department guy, so I'm just pulling this off the top of my head. There are a number of different options, and of course, you can end up with so many kids under quarantine that the school doesn't have enough children to officially operate. It's a mess, and I feel bad for the schools. But if you're looking for where the decision making is going on, technically right now it is going on at the school level, and that could change.
so I don't want to keep going on the rabbit hole, but
all right.
if the head of the Health and Human Services of the state of Michigan has only sent out a recommendation, which is what I heard was
The state isn't issuing mandates.
Yep, theirs was a recommendation to all health directors that
theirs, I think, was a recommendation they should do mandates. We recommend you do mandates. So then we get to, our health director has the power and the authority to do it on his own, and then it becomes law. Well, at what point does his boss at the state, if they didn't say it was a law? I mean, where are we missing that?
The laws passed give, and that there are a certain number of laws, and,
I'm going on the rabbit hole.
Brian
It's
and,
just,
Brian, I shouldn't say Brian, I looked them up, Brian looked them up and read them to me.
So here's the guidance from the state. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services recommends local health departments and schools work together to quickly isolate COVID-19 cases among students and staff, identifying close contacts and those cases. And, and this next phrase is underlined, adopt quarantine policies that reduce the risk of transmission in schools while allowing in-person learning. And so under the health code and or 333.125, it provides that schools may do something, or the health departments may do something. So the school board could adopt its own policies.
So as a lot of people actually have requested, this decision-making process has been pushed down to the local level, where health departments and school boards are making the decision. Any other comments on any of that? All right, we are, as usual, my meetings seem to run long, so I'd like to move into committee reports if everybody's here. Gary, could we start with you, please? Do you have anything?
Yeah, I'm on the Shiawassee Economic Department policy with Justin Horvath, and people think that all the COVID money are from the federal government. They got all the businesses, restaurants, all of them through that department got thousands and thousands of dollars. Some of them closed and some of them didn't make it, but they also got grants that if they had so many employees, the grants were forgiven. They had all kinds of policies. They got several things. Townships got money, cities got money, everybody got money. So, I mean, in the township, we got money, so everybody got money. It's just how they want to do it. Some townships got 150,000, some got less, I know. So those are the issues there. Also, I'm on the 911 board, and things are going good. I'm bringing off the hook. So also on the senior citizen board. The only problem, one of the problems they're having over there, they're having problems with getting food shortages. They can't get what they need, so they have to run in some of the stores here and get it. Also, they're having an issue, I don't want to bring it up too much, they built on a building over to Durand where they enter, and the work wasn't done right, and they found out that they has quite a few issues with that. So. And also, I'm on the Health and Wellness Board, which is the mental health. They also give all their employees bonuses or whatever you want to call it, pay or hazardous pay or something. They get thousands of dollars too. So everybody got money along the line. Every place I worked, all the boards I was on. That's it right now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Root, you have something for us today?
Yeah, health board, again, we see the items that are on here. Commissioner Plowman touched on those things with the public comment. The program with Durand was the only school district that opted in when that grant was available. That grant is since long gone. Durand Schools is the only one that opted in, so they're the only one that got to take advantage of it. So now it is a defunct grant that we're lucky to have. And if we don't fill that nursing position, if we don't get somebody staffed out there, we could be in, we could lose that. It is state money. It's all state money. It's not money that the county pays. Along with the other grants are money that comes into the county to fund these programs. So these are all state funded. Perry is also a grant that we got recently. I think there's other schools, there is other school districts I believe that are interested in getting in that type of grant. There is no wellness program or nursing program like Durand has. That's not offered anymore. But the social work, I believe there's other opportunities for school districts to get involved and get on that one. So I think others are getting into it. Perry seems to really enjoy it. It's been doing really well there. Again, no money that we pay from the county for that. And I think Health and Wellness helps us with that, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
yeah,
They're a partner with that one.
yes.
And that's all I have,
Thank you, Commissioner.
unless you want me to go into the mandates.
Oh,
from the health board.
it's what I live for.
Yeah, it's all right.
Commissioner Plowman.
Okay, I'll sum up. Genesee, Shiawassee, Thumb Area Workforce Group did not meet this month, but they're back in operation and training. Parks and Rec met. Basically, if you get a chance, go out to Chi-Town Dam with maintenance department and Tim Hill and his crew and the Parks Board and many volunteers. They planted 62 trees, and it's really quite beautiful. So take a look. Also, MTA met, Michigan Township Association. We had a pretty good crowd, more than we normally had during COVID, and we talked about COVID, and that should do it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Carver.
Just a couple things. We've been talking about COVID funding and employee compensation, so I've been working on some numbers. For 2020, this board voted to participate in the work share program, as we know, at no cost to us. It's a cost to someone. Who that is, we don't know. 147 employees participated in that program. It was administered in this office for a total of $790,000. That equals about $5,374 an employee. Also in 2020, 58 employees, frontline employees, received $58,000, $1,000 each. ARPA funds, 2 bonuses that have been paid out, totaled $486,000, not including our our employment costs of taxes. That is a total of $1,334,000 paid to our employees in addition to their compensation. So I just wanted to put that out there. My second item, September 21st, Public Safety and Courts, there was a comment made that there were a lot of questions in the community whether proper safety precautions were being taken in the jail. My first thought would be to ask the sheriff, the undersheriff, or the jail administrator before I made that comment. This is the procedures. I could slam it down for dramatic effect, but it hasn't been paid for yet. So 600 pages here to support what the sheriff's department has done for COVID.
And that was a FOIA request.
It is, again, not paid for. So I'm gonna have it right here. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Marks. I have nothing. Commissioner Webster.
Just SCOA board, I know Commissioner Halls gave an update. SCOA operates 3 buildings, and they are in all 3 of them in Morris, Durand, and Wausau, offering some in-person services to seniors now. And the building in Durand has some issues with the roof that we had put on not too long ago, so there's that has to be addressed in a number of ways. And that's really all I have for tonight for that portion.
All right, and I've talked way too much the last 2 days, so I'm not going to say a thing. And we're just gonna thank you, sir. We will just move on now to our committee motions and reports. Starting with the Economic and Physical Development Committee, I will need a motion to accept and place on file the 2021 drain assessments as proposed.
I think Commissioner Marks will do that.
I'm sorry.
I'll second his motion, though.
Yeah.
Then I'll turn it over to Marks and let him read it.
Yes, I move item A as presented by the chair.
I'll second it.
I have a motion with support. Is there any discussion on that item?
I kind of have discussion on that item. It's sort of not even related. Tony Newman, our drain commissioner, did look at a drain for the Shiawassee River Trail route that I now now attend. And I forgot during my report to say thank you, Tony, it was much appreciated, got me some kudo points there, so, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? We need a consensus vote on this, or do we need a
Yes.
consensus?
Yeah, we need a roll call.
We need a roll call.
Yes.
You're both, let's go with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes, passes.
Mr. Chair, I now move to approve the apportionment report and direct the spread of taxes in terms of millage rates and to be spread on taxable value.
Support.
A motion with support. Discussion on that item. Call the question, please.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes. Commissioner Marks?
Yes. Actually, was thinking about that last one. Did that include the VA? Because someone called me and asked, thinking that they had raised.
If it was up, it's on there. I don't know if it was up, the details on it.
I'm sorry.
Every so many years they're up and they stagger. So, Mr.
That's what I thought was next year. Nope, that's all, it's all right, then, in that case, I move to approve the VA 116 farmland agreement application for Mr. Tom Albaugh for his property located at 7201 West Riley Road, Elsie, Michigan.
Support.
Good motion with support. Discussion on that. Call the question, please.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I move to approve the bid documents as presented.
I'd support that. That's for Henson Park. They're gonna put a new, trail in there, limestone or something. So we're gonna bid on that. So that's gonna be a grant that we have.
Any other discussion on that? Call the question, please.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
Okay, now I move to approve the appointments to Parks and Planning Commission.
Support.
Moving with support. Discussion.
And physical.
Call the question, please.
That's just a.
That's just all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I swear, folks, I'll get the hang of running these meetings someday. All right. Please continue, Commissioner.
In that case, I move to approve the minutes of the October 18, 2021 Economic and Physical Development Committee meeting.
Support.
Motion with support. Discussion on the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Plowman, I'll pass this on to you then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to authorize MERS to allow Brandon Worrell to purchase 1 year of service credit as requested.
Second.
Motion with support. Any discussion on that item? Call the question, please.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
No.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move to approve the creation and posting of the Human Resources Manager.
Support?
Motion with support. Further discussion on that item? Commissioner Holzhausen.
Yes, I don't believe we should be in the market for hiring a new employee. Just like Mr. Root said, that we can't even get nurses, removes that grant. And we haven't got money for that. Our prosecutors can't get people to work there because we're not paying enough. So I think we better start taking care of those before we hire more people. We've got to pay insurance and health care and everything on them, so that's my position.
I'm thinking maybe push this over into the next budget year, give us a little more time. I think it's a good idea, but maybe the timing's just not there.
Anyone else want to
Was
weigh
this
in?
not built into the budget for this year?
It was.
It is.
Well, just because you have budget don't mean you gotta blow it on that, so. That's my opinion.
I feel like I understand the concerns, but I feel like if anybody, I feel like we need a human resources manager, at least a part-time one, maybe some rearranging, that would just help to cover us from a liability point of view. There is so much to employment law and so many details, as we talked about earlier this week about evaluating employees. That in and of itself is a big responsibility. It needs to be done. And that is not just something that you do, it's something that covers you from a liability standpoint if you have to dismiss somebody for cause. And so this is just about posting. I would think if we post in October, it probably would be January before we hire anyway, by the time we get people and get them interviewed and go through a proper interview process and all that sort of thing. So, I have mixed feelings about it, but I think it's something we've talked about a lot and should probably consider moving forward with it.
Commissioner Roop?
As you know, I worked on this for a while, met with the wage study, a professional to provide us something we need. They gave us all of the projected salaries of what it would be and what it might cost in our area, in our market. But I'm torn on it too. I believe Commissioner Holzhausen's right. It's hard to add more when we're. Yeah. And I led the charge on this, and I know the importance of this, and we do need it. There's no doubt. But maybe again, I think maybe we ought to look at reorganizing our office and some of the duties inside our office, and maybe this becomes absorbed. I'm not saying not hire somebody that would fit the qualifications, but maybe look at some sort of reorganization in our office that otherwise doesn't create a new position, like Commissioner Holzhausen's saying. Otherwise, maybe just adds a little to what we already have. We do have a good team in our office right now, and I think we've probably got some people in there that can do this position or might do this work or would be interested in taking this work instead of what they were currently doing. So maybe it could wait a month or two. I'm not saying we have to go all the way into the next year, but maybe we should think about that first, some reorganization maybe, and what that might look like. Dr. Boggs could obviously do that. He's evaluated all the employees. He sees them on a day-to-day basis. Tracy certainly should be involved as far as the financial side of things to make sure we're doing all the right duties and how much duties and work are there. Are all of our jobs full-time positions? Maybe, I went heavy into the human resource side, and I think we need it. I'm going to still say we need it even after we do this, but I didn't take into consideration just creating a new position and adding to our existing staff. So I think Commissioner Holzhausen makes a good point. We don't want to really just add another position right now. Maybe we should look at, long story short,
Sounds like
I
the
would
board's,
hold off for
I'm sorry, it sounds like the board's desire for this is cooled quite a bit. And with that uncertainty, I think I would agree that this is probably not a posting we should take at this time.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good team. We got our coordinator or administrator there. He keeps track of things. We also got attorney on staff that can help out with legal things. Sure, we need more people. We can't even get nurses and everything else.
You're aware of my billable rate,
Yeah.
Commissioner?
Yeah. So, we don't need you over there babysitting everybody every day either. So.
Absolutely.
That's what we got ahead of the departments. They're supposed to look after their employees. We don't need another babysitter. So.
Mr. Board Chair.
Go ahead.
I'm a little less torn on this. I see this as a good thing. I remember the list that Dr. Boggs read off, and a lot of counties our size have a human resource manager. I feel like this would be good protection for the county, and honestly, in the long run, and after the last 6 months, I feel like this is a step in the direction of having probably some employee evaluations and a lot of different things we have been doing that can add to the transparency of this county, and I see it as a good thing. So I'm not torn at all. I'm in favor of hiring human resources.
Commissioner Plum?
I agree with Brandon. Actually, looking at this human resource person, we will look at, does it become a combination with another job? Do we restructure some of our personnel in the commissioners' chambers? That could happen too. I just think this is more or less an avenue for our county administrator to research it, figure out maybe something, and bring it back. And quite frankly, Even Cindy had a point, maybe it doesn't really happen maybe till the first of the year anyway, if we do something. But, 'cause we have the budget next month, and that takes up a lot of our time. We may not even get an application. But we wanna maybe try to get it moving in the right direction and see how we could organize it. That's why I'm moving forward.
I hate to post a job that we don't know we're going to fill. Do interviews, that sort of thing, have people coming in, for us only saying, we changed.
Yeah, we got jobs posted now, we can't pay to fill them, so then they want more, so.
If you get some applications, it might help you sort of shape what it is that you need and what you know, based on what you get around.
Could be, not part-time.
Maybe become, you know, based on the applicants, maybe someone with a pension already comes in and says, I can do that, I'm qualified to do that.
Maybe we need more discussion about this, I don't know.
Just what's going on.
Well, shall we call the question and see where we land?
Okay. Commissioner Olshausen,
No.
Commissioner Root,
No.
Commissioner Garber,
No.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster.
Yes.
Oh. Judith Crowder.
Come on, let's blow the money.
No. It fails.
Good job, guys.
I move to approve the revised Shiawassee County personnel policy as presented.
Support.
Thank you. Motion with support. Discussion, please. Really?
Oh, yeah, I have something. So one of the provisions that's in this, which is also in the old one, and it is a little troublesome to me, it came up tonight, to change benefits, plans, whatever, without any notice to
As part of
employees.
management rights.
So, that's some of the issues we're dealing with here tonight. I get that it's part of management rights, but what is right? Those are two different things.
Well, and the notice is provided to them for change. So most employees have a collective bargaining unit except for the non-reps and the electeds. And so the non-reps and the electeds could have their retirement changed or their health benefits changed without notice. The ones that are part of the collective bargaining unit cannot, because that'd be an unfair labor practice.
And the other thing, is, you know, in the future when we do these, I hope we can get the edited copy so that we can see what's being taken out, what's been put in, and get it enough in advance. It's a 57-page document. We got it Friday. We're voting on it on Thursday. I just think commissioners need to spend a little more time when we're making some really substantial changes, have time to talk to employees, department heads, so that we all know what's happening with that document. And I know some commissioners had a chance to see it, but the first time that it was distributed to the majority of us was last Friday. So I just feel like we need more time with it for it to really be a document. We're all going to be responsible for what's in there, for the implementation of that. We're going to all answer the questions when something is in there that doesn't work right. So we need to have a little more time with it.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
Do you have a little more insight? When you was talking to me that the judge has more say over it, we don't have really the 100.
That's the next one.
Oh, that's the next one.
That's the next one the judge has say over. This one we do have say over unless it's part of a contractual unit.
Oh, okay, I got mixed up, sorry.
And that's all right. And this one also fills in the gaps for anything that's not in the bargaining units with the employees. So I think it's important that, we went through a process of this. Commissioner Root led it when he was the chairman. Larry participated in it. Johnson, the health director. Amber Bias, Shiawassee, Tracy, Braun Kendrick's firm participated in it, as well as our HR consultant that we had.
And our undersheriff.
Oh, yes, and our undersheriff, who was very pleased to be there to be part of it. And we went through and updated all of these policies and procedures, especially in the wake of COVID, which several changed. Also, several things changed about how we do business here, including providing laptops to individuals and our technology policy, because we didn't have education. Larry added a health and wellness component that he felt very passionate about, and those things were all added to this as part of the process. Several other commissioners came in and participated. I know Gary was at a few meetings, John was at a few meetings, Cindy was at a few of the meetings over the course of the time.
And had I been invited to a meeting, I would have come, so.
They weren't invited.
They were invited.
It's kind of okay, but you know, it's not about.
And nobody invites me.
It's not about invited or not. Yeah, and so you know, that's the process we went through to form it, and it's up to you if you wish to advance it or not at this time.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I think there's some, as I've gone through it, some things that really need to be addressed, and are addressed in this document. One of the things on page 49 addresses that no accrued sick days shall be used to extend employment status. We have that going on. We have at least 2 employees, when I was going through the reports with our finance director and assistant finance director, that are using sick and or vacation days to extend their employment. They don't work here anymore and they receive ARPA fund bonuses. So there are some valid reasons to tighten up these.
Yeah, this was gone through for a long process that we went through. We identified obviously the Teamsters being a huge bargaining unit, the health department being the other largest employer outside of the Teamsters as far as employment group. His shop is all non-repped at this point, so he was kind of on the non-repped side, being that they do pay their salaries and their wages through their funding. The attorney was here. I mean, everything Dr. Boggs said, I mean, we did go through, and I think what the difference in this is, you know, when we say, oh, everybody's involved and everybody does it, well, yeah, that'd be fine if we did, you know, here we did this, here we did this, here we did this, and we were making incremental changes over time. This was the entire document from cover to end that just started. I think the last time it was revised, there were some specific things they were looking to hone in on. We didn't have that. We went straight through the cover to the end. That's why it took the time that it took. None of the new policies, if there is a change in a policy, my God, a lot of it was copying and pasting the old stuff, you know, with maybe an instead of shall, you know, the wording was what was needing to be changed the most. And I mean, we did have an HR professional that offered us several different of what communities, municipalities, you know, are putting in their policies. She gave us several different policies that fit. Made sure we're not saying things that are illegal, making sure we're not doing things we shouldn't be doing. You know, identifying some things I think that Commissioner Garber brought up that we're not doing. I think another one was the working 64 hours, only working 8 days of pay period, but still being availed yourself 100% county health care, health benefits, sick time, and all those accruals. That doesn't happen. That should be prorated. If you're a 64-hour a week or month or pay period employee, you choose that. We require that you're here 80 hours a week or a pay period. That's the position. The positions aren't if you decide you want to be a 32-hour a week. And there's a lot of individuals that have gone down to 32 hours a week that are now still getting full benefits, still getting vacation times accrued, all these other accruals, and that becomes a drain on the county's funds. We need to be making sure we're prorating that stuff, and those were some of the incremental fixes that were put in there. Because it's not in place, or it's not in writing, they can do that. Well, we wanted to make sure that kind of stuff was tightened up. These are things that you don't realize that in these little documents that cost the county thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that we don't even see because it just passes right through payroll. And you don't even see it, and you don't know anything about it. Well, that's how we lose a lot of money. So we went through this. There was certainly no secret. I mean, we were here all the time. We were actually right in this room. There's no secret meetings. I think I want to touch on the idea of why we make committees. The 7 of us can't be sitting and doing committee meetings every single day of the week, or every single month adding more. We all have stuff to do. And why we task certain individuals to be on certain committees is so that we can manage to work several different avenues instead of being bogged down doing one thing at a time. So yeah, sometimes you're not going to be as clued in on what's going on the personnel policy. I had people tasked to do technology committee. I was never clued in on anything until stuff was brought to the board. And I didn't question or think that was outrageous. That was the process. I wasn't part of the technology committee. There were individuals that were tasked to handle that. They knew what they were doing. They knew their assignment. They knew what their goals and things they wanted to identify. And when they brought them back to the board, it was just my opportunity to say, okay, thank you for your work. You've done it. You provided it to us. Obviously, you vetted it. You went through it.
I'll just add this for a little laughter. The last time this document was really gone through completely was 1984, and I chaired that committee in 1984. So, it's been a long time.
Little fun fact about the 1984 document. This one repeals everything that was done and includes everything in one document. The previous one did not. So therefore, to fully understand what we were operating under, you needed the 1984 policy and the 2017 policy.
Yeah.
Because the other one didn't subsume or replace the other one completely.
Yes.
And so we went through and we found every handbook and every policy that we could over the last 40 years and put them all out on the table. Morgan hated it, but she had made a spreadsheet with all the policies moving across so that we could figure out what ones were in what versions and what ones were missing, and then put them together and pull them all together into one document as opposed to a variety of them. And Eric and myself talked about this week over an issue, and I had to send him the old versions because we haven't repealed and enacted this one, and that one wasn't addressed in the 17 version. So I mean, I think this is a good consolidation.
Yeah, we read through Oakland counties, we read through Livingston counties. We have some excerpts from Genesee County, just to make sure we had language that was similar, that we weren't putting anything out different. That's all.
Further discussion? Call the question, please.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster?
No.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
Yes.
Chairman Broder?
Yes.
I move to approve the contract with the Circuit Court Association as presented.
Support.
Got a motion to support. Discussion on that item.
Well, back to Gary's comment, I mean, I was not, I did not have a good understanding of this. Again, after looking at it and asking Chairman Berger for a few questions, Eric a few questions, it doesn't sound like we really have any authority over this at all. So I don't even know why we're voting on it, really.
Because we have to, because we're the funding unit.
But like you told me, I mean, they can vote, they can put anything they want.
They can put it into into action, but they can't do the monetary increases without the board's authority.
I guess I didn't understand.
You are the
Yes.
funding.
I don't know if we want
Please,
to do this. I don't want to go too far. The relationship between the courts and the county with you as a funding unit is unfortunately complex. And it's slightly different. We have similar issues with other county offices. The mechanism here is what's traditionally been done in this county, but effectively what you're doing is there was cooperation between the courts, the clerk's office, the judge, all of that, to reach this tentative agreement that is represented in this contract. So I guess you can think of it as primarily you're approving the financial aspects of it, although through that cooperation and that good relationship that exists, the county did get input on other things. If it's not approved today, I don't know how the courts would respond, but it would probably be a bigger issue. Particularly, I do note that there is an agenda item later for a 4% increase to non-represented employees of the county, so it would be particularly difficult to tell the court employees, we didn't approve your 4%, but we approved it for everyone else.
Well, I think it's the
But
reverse, because we did that for everybody else because of this. So,
well, I'm not entirely sure that that's the only reason that you're doing it for everybody else, but I would defer on that. But this represents the agreement that everyone at the table reached, and Chairman Broder was there, I was there, Dr. Boggs was there. We support it, we do recommend it, we think it's an appropriate deal. There are things in here that help the county, and it represents a good start towards maintaining a working relationship with the courts, which I think is important for labor purposes and other purposes.
So it's just a formality that we prove it then?
Not really, it's.
Because I mean, I'm trying to understand this here,
We did
because
participate in the negotiation. The negotiation was a little bit different than most negotiations in that there weren't two sides of the table, there were three.
Actually, there were four.
Oh,
Caroline.
oh, that's right.
So it's
have my piece.
I guess, Commissioner Root, to your question, it's somewhat more than a formality, but not entirely within the county's scope to just dictate the outcome of this one. But we do recommend that you approve it, and that's where we're at.
Fortunately, with cooperation among the four groups, we were able to work out a reasonable contract. If there hadn't been that cooperation, it could have been very messy, and fortunately, it was not.
I haven't seen the contract, so I don't know what it is. But I did have a few that I highlighted when I was tasked with doing this, which I wasn't even involved in negotiations last time they took place. So, but I got a copy that I almost signed when I was getting documents to sign for the board, and I asked, what is this? I haven't even seen this. I don't even know what this is. So I went through it, and one of the ones I addressed was the E2 rider for the pensions. Are we addressing that? We've closed pensions in every other unit. We have addressed that the E2 rider is an extremely expensive rider to have. We have eliminated them in every single capacity outside of the Teamsters, because I don't know that we would accomplish that. Closing the pension was hard enough. But the cost of living rider is an expensive rider, and I'm not going to sit here and say let's get rid of it. But I think the board better look at the amount that the employee is putting in, so that the county, because all of the changes we've done are undone with that 3 and 5% that we increased. When we leave E2 riders and stuff like that in there, that's all undone. We've got to go up to 8, and we've got to go up to 10, because we're not to where we need to be. I mean, that's the same fight we've had with the sheriff's office forever. Yes, have the B4, have the E2. The percentage has to rise that the employee puts in.
I believe the E2 is still in there, but they did increase their amount that they're compensating.
1.5%.
More than that.
No, it's more than that. You have the contract with it.
Well, I thought they were accepting the 3 to 5, because we said 3 to 5. All county employees were going to go to 3 to 5. We were incrementing it from 1 to 3 to 5.
Yes.
And I believe when I seen the terms, they had accepted that. Now, are they going an additional above that 5?
No, I think they're doing 1, 3, and 5. Or 3 and 5.
So they would be on 5 now.
It's overtime.
3 this up and coming year, and I believe it's 5 the year after.
Right, the increases are happening over time.
Right.
Over a period of time.
I thought you were on overtime here.
We're on
No,
overtime.
I don't have an overtime rate, although you can make that happen if you want.
We're on overtime.
They did address things.
They did, but I think it's 1.5 the first year.
So we had already moved everyone to 3, and then we were waiting on negotiations. Everyone was going to 3, and then everyone was going to 5 in a 2-year step. Non-repped anyways.
The proposed agreement would increase their employee contribution towards defined benefit pension plans by 1, 2, 3, by an additional 4% over 3 years,
So what's the first year?
1.5.
Thank you.
And then is that this year though, right?
That is correct, although that's subject to getting it done with MERS, because this all has to be approved with the plan amendment with MERS.
So January 1 of 2022,
Again, assuming that everything is approved with MERS,
right?
because we can't just change an employee's contribution without getting a plan amendment done with MERS. And it has to be focused on these employees, but nonetheless, the employees in that unit have agreed to, over the next 3 years, increase whatever their current contribution is, which I'm not aware of off the top of my head.
1%, is it the one?
Right, so they're gonna go, they'll be, if that is the case, they'll be up to 5% by the end of 2023.
I mean, still not where it needs to be for the E2, but I'm not gonna die on that sword. So. But I mean, by 2023, I think is everybody at 5 now? Or everybody's going to 5?
They should be.
They should be now at 5?
No, they should be by January 1.
By January 1, everybody be 5%.
Not reps.
Not reps.
That was your motion. That would be an incremental 1, 3, and 5. I think that was Brandon's motion.
We certainly need to address the cost of living rider. But I guess they've already negotiated it, so it's going to be, when you talk about costs going up with MERS, there's one. Every year, compound. So.
That's why we're in the position of owing lots of legacy costs.
Yes.
And it will continue to increase.
That's all I have, thank you.
Any others? Please call the question.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move to approve the purchase of
May I interrupt you for a moment? I'm getting the feeling that maybe it's time for us to take 10 minutes.
No, coming back, we get 10 minutes.
Coming back if we take 10 minutes. But we're not done, and we still have an executive session.
Well, let's take our 10 minutes at the executive session.
All right, let's keep going.
I can speak fast.
All right.
Yeah, usually you read for other people.
Yeah, I sometimes have to do
Commissioner
that.
Plowman, please continue quickly.
I move to approve the purchase of a Ford 250 Super Cab in the amount not to exceed $32,291 and a Ford Escape in the amount not to exceed $23,510.
Second.
A motion with support.
Discussion, it's for buildings and grounds.
Yep.
Yeah, they need it for their employees to get around. They don't want to have junkers, so.
Just clearing that up.
Any other discussion? Call the question, please.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster?
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Chairman Broder?
Yes.
Move to approve the refilling of 2 positions in the Sheriff's Department, one for a corrections deputy and one for the road patrol deputy.
Second.
Motion. Who supported?
And
Good.
Gary?
Gary. Motion with support. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the question.
Commissioner Plowman?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster?
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Chairman Broder?
Yes.
I move to approve creation and hiring of a part-time secretary in the Sheriff's Department, not to exceed $10,000 for fiscal year 2022 without benefits.
Support.
Motion and support. Discussion. Hearing none, call the question.
Commissioner Webster?
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman?
Yes.
Chairman Broder?
Yes.
I move to approve a 4% increase for all non-reps effective November 1st, 2021, redlining all APAs within their band until they reach their original wage study step.
Second.
Motion with support. Any discussion on that item? Call the question, please.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks.
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
Move to approve the coordinator to proceed with the necessary steps to begin the pension bonding process and bring the document back to board approval.
Second.
The motion with support. Further discussion on that item?
I know I've said it a couple times tonight, just for the public, this is not the same as switching the fiduciary from MERS to another plan. This is bonding the legacy costs that we have, no matter who the holder of it is.
That is correct.
Correct.
I'd like to go back, Chairman Broder, to your comments yesterday, because I heard if it's not broke, don't fix it, but you indicated to us it's very broke, and if we don't fix it, nobody's gonna have a pension because we'll be bankrupt. Was that kind of your?
I didn't say nobody will have a pension, but if we end up going through a bankruptcy situation, it is very possible that pensions will be reduced. There are a lot of things under the law regarding that. I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is that more recent rulings have said that once you go into a bankruptcy situation, federal bankruptcy judge overrules state law and that pensions can be reduced. I remember when Detroit went through into bankruptcy, there was that discussion. So I am highly interested in saving our county in the next 10, 15, 20 years from having to go through that intensely painful process. And the only way we can do that is to start to fix things now. I think this bonding is very important step toward that. We're never going to see interest rates this low again, folks. We need to jump on this.
As soon as possible.
Well,
Yes, as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clear that up because we're not sitting through these presentations because it's fun. We're really trying to help the people that have their pensions.
To add to it, it's severely broken.
But it is fun.
Yeah.
No? Okay. I will call the question.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks.
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move to approve the minutes of the October 18th, 2021 Finance and Administration Committee meeting.
Second.
Motion supporting discussion on the minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Garber.
All right, Health and Human Services Committee, I'll remind you all that on Tuesday, my meeting only lasted about 12 minutes. So I'm gonna go right into agenda item A. I move that we approve the grant agreement between the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Shiawassee County Health Department for Public Health Services, Emerging Threats, in the amount of $713,344 for a period of 10/1/21 through 9/30/2022, and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
I thought I heard support.
Yes, Gary.
Yes, before I even finished it, it's been supported.
He stretched the word out, so it did.
Gonna get
Any
through it.
discussion?
These are just grants, we're gonna get through them.
That's right, they're grants, they're pass-through money. Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the grant agreement between the Shiawassee County Health Department and Michigan Primary Care Association for the Durant School Wellness Program in the amount of $150,000 for a period of 10/1/2021 through 9/30/2022, and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
Support.
Motion with support, discussion. Call the question, please.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the grant agreement between the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Shiawassee County Health Department for essential local public health services in the amount of $1,253,548 for a period of 10/1/2021 through 9/30/2022, and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
Support.
Motion with support. Further discussion?
Well, that's an important one. That's our operations for the health department.
Comments? Call the question, please.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the board appointment to the Veterans Board and the Health and Human Services Board.
Second.
Motion with support. Discussion on these appointments. I believe we can voice vote this one.
Yes.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
I move that we approve the minutes of the October 19th, 2021 Health and Human Services Committee meeting.
Second.
Motion with support. Discussion of the minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes.
5.5 minutes?
Thank you. Commissioner, beat your record on that one. Commissioner Marks, I'll hand it back to you for committee of the whole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I move to adopt the county attorney's recommendation with regard to settlement of pending litigation in Ruggiero versus Shiawassee County Board of Commissioners at the Shiawassee County Circuit Court case number 21-5977-CZ.
Support.
Got a motion with support. Discussion on that item with, I think, a warning that this is not really discussable. This is part of our closed session. So I probably should simply call the question on that one.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
No.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
And my vote was because I was not here for the closed session, so I'm not gonna vote on something I have no clue about.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Mr. Chair, with that, I will move to authorize expenditure of up to $5,000 for the purpose of conducting board training on Open Meetings Act and authorize Chairman Broder to execute a contract for the provision of such training.
Support.
Got a motion with support. Any discussion of that item? Again,
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yeah.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
yes.
Okay, I move to approve the minutes of the October 20, 2021 committee of the whole meeting.
Support.
Motion with support. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Who was that?
Me.
Moving on to chair comments. There are none. Coordinator comments.
Very briefly, we'll begin looking at the bonding process immediately and see what we can do to get the documents before you as soon as possible. Our other bonds closed today and sold. We'll be working with one bank on all of them. We received a very good interest rate and options, so we're moving forward with that expediently. That is it.
Thank you. At this time, normally we do a roundtable discussion, given the late hour, in order to prevent a mutiny among my fellow commissioners. We're going to skip that, and we're going to move right on to our second opportunity for the public to address the board. So far, I see only two names up here. Jeff Reed, please. A third name coming on up.
One or two?
Pardon?
Yeah, mine should.
Okay, we got more coming. Jeff Reed.
Go ahead, they can go before me.
Go ahead, Jeff. That's fine.
What I'm going to discuss does not give me glad tidings of great joy. As you know, and nobody wants to talk about it, is there's a criminal investigation by the State Attorney General and the Michigan State Police on the 3 recalled members. I'm going to swing for the fence tonight, and I'm going to tell you what, they are investigating, or they should. Some concerned citizens sent to the village of Byron some FOIA requested on employee or commissioner expense reports. Okay, I done a quick reconciliation, and a particular commissioner got paid meeting stipends and mileage for meetings that he did not attend. Okay, I've got it right here in the thing, it's factual. And basically that represents a criminal fraud by a public official. Okay, I'll contact the meeting tomorrow and I'll turn over to the state Attorney General and the Michigan State Police, and we'll see where this goes. Okay, it seems like everybody in the county knew about this fraud of getting
mileage stipends and meeting stipends, but nobody wanted to do anything about it. I went to township committee, 3 township meetings, and they come up to me, well, what are you doing about this double paying of meetings that this particular person did not attend? I says, hey, I don't know anything about it. What did you do about it? Well, that's for somebody else and everything to file criminal charges. So I just I'll let the board know what's going on and everything, but there is a criminal investigation by a particular member of District 5. He got mileage money and he got stipend money for meetings that he did not attend. And I got it right here in my handy little clipboard. Thank you very much.
Carmen Chandler.
Okay, the discussion on the county school mandates has again changed. Yesterday you told us it was a state mandate as you understand it, and today you tell us it is only a recommendation done with a soft hand because they don't want to make requirements. Please explain this county health department letter, signed or not, it is covered in the word requirement. Can I give each of you a copy? Okay, I'll just leave those then. I understand that the health department has the power to make mandates. Is this supposed to make us sit quiet or else? Well, sorry, we still don't have answers. We are aware of the health department's power. That's why there is an active petition drive called Unlock Michigan 2 to take that power from the health department. Please get out and sign it. The health department's power is why we have been addressing this issue with the health department from the beginning of the school year. Our community does not want mandates and requirements. Like you mentioned, people have choices. Wear a mask or don't. Get a COVID vaccine or don't. Stay home or don't. Live in fear or trust in God. That's how it should be. However, requirements, not recommendations, are what are stated throughout this letter from the health department. Was this letter put out for confusion or for what purpose? Someone please explain the actual facts of this letter. There's enough copies here for everybody. We have yet to hear an explanation of this. Thank you.
Marcy Brady.
I'll just stay back here. I know in public comment you don't have to answer my questions, but I have a few. Why was item H and I under finance today not on the agenda for committee of the whole or finance? I've been watching the agendas all week so I could participate in discussion. Those 2 items were not on the agendas prior to today. Why on the agenda where it says special presentation doesn't it tell you who's going to be speaking? So I would have known MERS was going to be here. Instead I had to call 50 different people to find out if MERS was going to be here or not, which they were. You've approved the bonding process. Right now, I, as the person sitting in your audience, I don't know if you're going to bond with MERS or the other gentleman. I wondered how I find that out. And last but not least, again, it was stated a couple times here tonight, if something's not broke, why fix it? I'm very aware of MERS liability. It's a problem. It has to be discussed. Our 457 plan wasn't broken. It was moved. I would love to know if anyone has any financial ventures with Blue Star Financials, and maybe that's why the money was moved there, and I wonder why we're leaving MERS, both places. This county has been with 50 to 60 years, but this board has decided it's all wrong, and we're going to change it, and I don't appreciate it. Thank you.
You tell me, what's that last name?
One thing, Rook's right about these people that get these stipends in their pension, and then we've got a lot of other county employees that had their pensions cut, and they did it to save the pension. But these people that are getting all the stipends are still paying the same amount for the pension as these people that took the cut. You know, we got to get this straightened out. Like you said, these people that take the cuts and don't get the E2, don't get these benefits, they should not be made to pay for these other people's benefits. If they want them, fine, then pay for them. You know, and, the thing about the, health, or the resource manager, I thought we did something, I don't know what the lady was, remember you guys took Michigan Extension funds and hired this lady, and she come around to all the departments? Never heard anything about that, what the results of that was. She come around all the departments, asked questions and stuff, and I thought that was something that was supposed to help with this process. Well, they never did hear anything on it, you know? And I always questioned why we used extension money. That's millage money that we voted for the 4-H kids, not for county business. And then on this, whether you believe in COVID or not, whether you believe in masks or not, yes, the county health director can sign a mask mandate if that's what people want, okay? But does anybody on the board here check with the schools and see if he's working with them? And I'm pretty sure he is. He ain't gonna check with every person on the school board. I think they hired a superintendent for that purpose. You know, quarantine and mandates in the health code have been around for years, and they've worked. I mean, I looked it up, the health code, state health code has been around for a lot of years. You know, and I don't know, why would we issue a countywide mandate, mask mandate for schools when maybe only 1 or 2 schools has got the problem? And schools can adopt a mask mandate. Their school boards can do it. You know, I mean, there's a lot of confusion, you know, and I don't know it all, but I know that they can do that. And Perry did it, and it helped. Hopefully, when Crummy gets done with it, it helps, and then we go back to normal, you know? I think that's all what we got.
It is. Matthew Shepherd, please.
Well, apparently what I said had no bearing upon this commission. The hypocrisy generated just this meeting alone. A few months ago, I applied after being told that no one was applying by former Chairman Rook for the Veterans Committee, when I had indeed applied online as required. And I applied by personally giving each of the commissioners here copies of my application with the Veterans Service Organization recommendation, my cover letter, and DD 214 as required. Now you're setting the precedent that any individual coming forth to any of these boards does not need a recommendation from either, as for example, a veteran service organization or the committee in whole for the veterans. And you also set precedent last month allowing organizations to give out their paperwork that they're going to profit from this company or this county. But private individuals aren't allowed to give paperwork out at your meeting. What's your answer on that? Private citizens that are constituents of yours are not allowed to give out paperwork, but those that are going to profit from this county are. Hypocrisy in its best.
Thank you.
Tom?
I just wanted to thank you that you had stepped up to the plate and you'd gone and talked to Larry privately and found these things out. It's right back to exactly what I said weeks ago, a month ago. The school districts still are not legally allowed to do mandates. Only the state and the health department. So even though it is awesome that some school districts are stepping up and doing what they feel that they need to do, it doesn't mean it's legal. And as we heard from Vice President Shiawassee tonight, they can be sued. The districts can be sued, the county can be sued, because the health director won't do his job and either say it's this way or it's that way. But with him just standing in the middle and waving back and forth every day and saying, I don't want to make a decision. I don't want people mad at me. What we have is we have school districts who are hung out there, like Corona, like Perry, that can be sued. They don't have a legal mandate. Now, some people think that it's fine. Schools can just do what they want if it's good. But no, we're a country of laws and regulations. So I thank you very much. Thank you for digging into that. It is great news for every school district to understand there is no mandate. And they better check with their attorneys on how they should go forward. Thank you.
All right, there's no pressing need for any of my fellow commissioners to comment on any of that. At this time, we would like to go into closed session under Section 80 of the Meetings Act, but I will need a motion.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion with support. Could you go? I beg your pardon?
Could you ask there to be order so we can do this properly?
People seem to be leaving.
They haven't gone in yet.
Right. Don't we need the motion first?
Yeah. Sorry, Commissioner.
Webster. We have time to order these back here while we're waiting.
I have no idea.
This was quicker than last night.
We did not know. I know. I guess we're gonna hold off.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Folks, we are still in session. Please, I need some quiet. I'm moving to get a motion. Please.
Sure.
We're done here.
Hang on.
We'll be taking a break after we make this motion. It'll give you a minute to talk to people. Should probably wait for Commissioner Holzhausen.
I thought we did the motion, I'm sorry.
We didn't, we actually didn't get to, well, we got to a motion. I don't know if we got a support.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
Webster.
Commissioner Webster.
We got a motion with support.
Did you
Should we
support that
wait?
motion?
Yes, I did. Okay.
So now we should just vote. We know Gary's a no.
Well, he's been surprising us.
My hearing isn't good in a noisy room. I'm having trouble hearing people.
Mr.
We
Chairman,
have-
I'd like to call the question, even with that commissioner absent. My suspicion is that there will be no votes. If not, we can call for a vote.
All right.
I want to get home to my kids someday.
I-
Not be here every night all week, but and be home.
I understand, but now that you've asked to call the question,
I'll support that.
I have to get support, and now we need a roll call vote on calling the question in the closed meeting.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks.
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen is absent, and Chairman Broder.
Yes. Thank you for calling that question, and now we can call the question on whether we are now going. Excuse me. We now have to. Excuse me. We now have to. A roll call vote on whether we are going into closed session. Right. We'll get it.
Okay, this is to go into closed
That is
session.
correct.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks.
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman.
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen is absent. Commissioner Root
Yes.
and Chairman Broder.
Yes. All right. We are now going to move into closed session. I'll ask everyone to clear the room, other than those who are participating. Let's give a minute, see if anybody comes back in.
Missing 2 from the board members.
You're missing
But
2?
but some people might need them. I don't know who's gonna make a motion. I'll
Mark,
wait.
is anybody out there?
Yeah, I told them that we were back open, so.
Here you
Okay.
go.
Oh, I need a copy of that motion.
Oh,
You can, if someone needs to keep one of these for a little while longer, they can, but at the end of the meeting, they will be collected.
I need that for you.
Here's mine.
Or just give me the last one.
I'll just collect it.
Yeah.
You guys go a little bit longer if pizza hasn't arrived.
Yeah. So we're back in regular session.
all right.
Okay, clerk, we're
We're
back in regular
open
session? Yes, okay. I move that the county coordinator and the county corporation council are directed to coordinate with the election commission and the county prosecutor on the issue of representation of the election commission, which takes such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including but not limited to, making such filings and entering appearances in this matter to protect the county's interest in these proceedings, particularly with regard to the amount of legal fees incurred.
I have a motion. Is there a support?
Yeah, I'll support it.
Oh, I now have support. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing no, seeing no. Oh, there he is. He ran past you. Before I roll call, any discussion on the motion? All right, I ask for a roll call vote then.
Did he hear the motion?
I understand the motion, yes.
Oh.
Commissioner Tallman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
yes. Commissioner Olshausen,
No.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
No.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
No.
Can I? Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it passes.
It passes.
That's 4-3 passes.
So, I guess I'll ask this board to clarify, and I know that the discussion went a little sideways. Do you want to object to this motion by Attorney McClear or not? Or do you want us to just try and control the costs?
I voted no, so I would have to ask someone who voted yes.
Yeah, I am a definite no, so I have nothing to add.
I would have to ask someone who said yes to open the discussion on that. We can't just give no direction.
I think we are interested in controlling costs, absolutely. We have, this is our number one duty as a body here.
I think basis is controlling the cost, and then if something else comes up, we'd have to control.
So
Unusual.
I will not oppose the motion. I will simply control the costs if it is. I will enter an appearance just to the limited point of saying, if you appoint somebody, we want the costs to be paid, to be managed. Is that, I mean, I guess I'm sorry, I need more direction or else this is not gonna work.
I think the question you're asking is, do you want, is the board directing you to completely oppose the motion that we should pay for the attorney for the Elections Commission, or are we okay with that and we are asking you to make sure that in such an order that it would be, there'd be some limitation on the cost?
That is correct.
Okay, so board,
Or do you want me, okay, yeah, that is correct.
Does it have to be hand over?
I was in favor of wait and see, so I can't say.
I was too, just wait and see.
But you voted yes.
I voted no.
Oh, you voted no, I'm so sorry.
Who all voted no?
Can I tell him?
I think I think we do what you said. We oppose the motion, and then we keep costs down. Same thing we keep talking about.
Those are not the same things. I either need to I either need to oppose the authority to do something, or I just need to manage the costs. I don't,
So the motion then, it sounds like we needed two motions or different motions, because those are two different things now.
So I would oppose her,
Because I would vote
oppose
one
her
thing.
filing then. Oppose her motion.
I would oppose a motion too.
I'll make that motion. We oppose her, we direct our attorney to oppose her motion.
So is that
Commission's motion.
Yes.
So now we have, please state your motion again.
Well, it was one or the other. It was either to oppose the action by Attorney McClear or to keep costs down. Am I right?
Or we can see.
or wait, or do nothing.
I'll second Ruth's motion.
What was the motion? That's what I'm asking.
The motion was to oppose Attorney McClear's motion.
Okay?
Within our ability to do so.
Within your ability to do so.
I agree with my second on
All right, so I guess
Oppose
we do.
Attorney McClure's motion with county attorney ability?
I'll do, if I'm ordered to do something, I mean, however you want to put it.
Doesn't sound like it's even possible.
I don't know about, I wouldn't say that, I'm just,
Folks,
Well, what are we doing?
Yeah,
I mean,
yes,
we're
gas on the fire here, folks.
we're trying to, we need you to guide us with your opinion. We need you to guide us. So if that's not reasonable, you don't think that's reasonable, then you need to guide the ship here. You're the attorney. So what is your suggestion? Don't go into your opinion.
well, I mean, you've got the opinion, you've looked at it. You've seen the previous request that was made to this board, that was made in part, at my request. This board needs to decide what it wants to
So
do.
then I'll withdraw my motion,
And I'll withdraw my second.
and then we can just wait.
But we already made the,
We already passed a motion directing our attorney to become involved in this process. Now he's asking for direction from us on
So then
what
keep the
we-
cost
Right,
down.
you people that voted yes.
So then keep the
come
cost
with us
down.
so we can go home.
If you would like to
I would
now.
vote that he keeps the cost down and manageable. If they, whatever's deemed necessary by the courts, if it's allowed, then we manage the cost as best as we can.
I think we don't need a formal motion on that. I think we just need the direction, the consensus of the board, that given this, we are asking not to oppose the Rebecca's McClear's motion for the appointing of attorney, but simply to, if it happens, which it may not, control the cost, make sure that it simply isn't an open-ended blank check situation.
Yes.
Does that make things clear if we agree with that?
Yes, I think you might end up making a motion to just provide further direction to your council after that motion that's already passed.
This motion.
I understand that.
What I'm gonna put in.
As of right now, but if someone were to move to provide further clarification along those lines, that I'm not to oppose it all, but just say if it happens, or however it happens, to try and manage the costs.
I will make that motion.
Okay.
So let's
give you
if
the
you're gonna
time.
make a motion, let's go ahead and actually try it out.
Oh,
And I'll try.
thank you.
I'll try.
I'll make the motion that we give our attorney permission to attempt or discuss costs,
But not.
But not to
but not to
contest the entire motion.
contest
The entire motion.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, but hang on,
A motion,
just a minute, please.
okay.
Okay,
That's it? You're not
If
reading the other
the-
part then?
Well, the other one we passed. This is the second one.
Tell us
It
when you're
keeps
ready,
getting
Caroline.
better here, right?
well, it's like, give the permission to the attorney to attempt cost But not to, what?
Not to oppose the entire motion.
Okay,
Board Chair, has there been a motion and a second on this item?
yeah,
So it's open for discussion.
yes.
I have a motion with
Mr. Chair?
support.
Can I ask a question? So all we're doing now, just to clarify what the vote is to make sure we, on behalf of the county taxpayer, manage the costs of whatever may occur.
That is correct. We are accepting that the judge might assign, give them the.
We're taking no position on that matter, and
Correct.
we are saying if it were to happen, the board would have oversight of the
Thank
costs.
you.
Yes.
That's
And I'll-
exactly what we meant.
So, hearing no other discussion, I will call for a roll call vote, please.
Okay, but I do have a question on the whole withdrawal. Commissioner Webster.
Okay, so we're voting on withdrawing that first motion to oppose? You said you had a question on the withdrawal.
After, we'll finish
Oh.
this motion and then we'll go
Okay,
back
so
to-
this question is on controlling costs, yes.
Correct.
Yes, okay, yes, Commissioner Webster, Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
No.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
Okay, so you had a motion.
The second motion is a further clarification of the first motion. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
So this motion that was,
That has passed.
that is passed, that's a roll.
Both motions have passed.
Okay, but the one that you,
This is the
Commissioner Root,
stupidest thing
discussed
I've ever
about the withdrawal, there was so much conversation.
There was
It's
withdrawal.
actually
He
what the
withdrew it,
motion-
I withdrew my second.
Yeah. it was
I know, but I
withdrawn.
have to kind of, I have to have that reflected in minutes. So it was, which one was it though? The oppose the election commission or oppose Attorney McClear's motion? And then
Well, it wasn't clear, because I was saying to impose the motion, but you can't
Right.
do that. It needed to be one or the other, so.
Right, so I'm asking you which one.
He moved to direct the commission to oppose McClear's motion in its entirety.
Okay,
And that motion was withdrawn.
Yes.
It's in entirety.
Yes.
Okay, that's.
Very good.
Okay, okay. That's what I needed to clarify.
Are we all set now?
That's good.
All right, we're adjourned.
8:10.